Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto, chapter 6, text 7. Muktasya balye kaishore kridatu yati vimshatihi. Eight. Okay. Durapurena kamena mohena chabaliyasa shashamgreshu saktasya pramatasya payatihi.
Durapurena kamena mohena chabaliyasa sheshamgreshu saktasya pramatasya payatihi.
I have such a deep voice.
Okay. Durapurena, which is never fulfilled. Kamena, by a strong aspiration. To enjoy the material world. Mohena, by bewilderment. Cha, also. Baliyasa, which is strong and formidable. Shesham, the remaining years of life. Griheshu, to family life. Saktasya, of one who is too attached. Ramatasya, mad. Apayati, wastefully pass. He, indeed. Translation. One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of insatiable lusty desires and very strong illusion. In such a madman's life, the remaining years are also wasted because even during those years, he cannot engage himself in devotional service. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is the account of 100 years of life. Also in this age, a lifetime of 100 years is generally not possible. Even if one has 100 years, the calculation is that 50 years are wasted in sleeping, 20 years in childhood and boyhood, 20 years in invalidity, jara vyadi. This leaves only a few more years, but because of too much attachment to household life, those years are also spent with no purpose, without God consciousness. Therefore, one should be trained to be a perfect brahmachari in the beginning of life, and then to be perfect in sense control, following the regulative principles if one becomes a householder. From household life, one is ordered to accept vanaprastha life and go to the forest and then accept sannyas. That is the perfection of life. From the very beginning of life, those who are ajitendriya, who cannot control their senses, are educated only for sense gratification, as we have seen in Western countries. Thus, the entire duration of life of even 100 years is wasted and misused. And at the time of death, one transmigrates to another body which may not be human. At the end of 100 years, one who has not acted as human being in a life of tapasya, austerity and penance, must certainly be embodied again in a body like those of cats, dogs and hawks. Therefore, this life of lusty desire, sense gratification is extremely risky. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Pinam Namaste Saraswati Devam Guruvani Sachani Nirvisheshi Shriyamari Pushpati Devata. I can read these shlokas before because they are in context with this, describing the 100-year period of a human being. Every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years, but for one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years. In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similar in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully. One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of insatiable lusty desires and very strong illusion. In such a madman's life, the remaining years are also wasted because even during those years he cannot engage himself in devotion or service. So this is a summary of 100 years of illusion, which is generally the standard for various human life, which Prabhupada doesn't say it's human, because that's generally what animals do. They just live by being born, they live by instincts, they never ask anything, and then they die. Actually, they die in such a smooth way that we don't even know where they are dying. Like there are no dead birds falling from the sky. There are so many, especially here. You don't see a dead seagull falling on your head because it got a heart attack. It's amazing. Where are they? They kind of vanish. Sometimes you see a bird being hit by a car or something, but it's very exceptional. But there are so many. And they're kind of vanishing. Because they know when the death is coming, so they go aside somewhere. And they die there. And they are probably quickly eaten by others. So that's how it works. But humans, this is, when a dead human is lying on a street, and certainly it creates some commotion. And there is some action around that. And we don't know when we are going to die. We have no even the basic instincts. People used to have that. Even simple farmers, I heard stories, they said, I think I will die tonight. And he was eating even a lunch. He lay down and in the evening he was dead. There is a description of this, you find it in Bhakti Vikash Maharaj's book about the glimpses of Vedic life. There is also mentioned the process of dying. There's interviews with people in Vedic with Brahmanas and this, and they say original thing in a Vedic thing is that the heart just stops, that's all. There's no coma, there's no trauma, there's not this hospital thing and all these things, and the heart just stops, that's all. And when the heart stops, then the soul is leaving. And there is a warning, there is actually a preparation for that. Anyway, the whole life is actually aiming towards that. There are so many warnings, but people don't hear to that. They just, Prabhupada said, like in connection with Maharaj Parikshit, that he was blessed that he knew he will die like in 7 days. But he said, Prabhupada said, we don't even know that. We have no idea. How many devotees we saw just disappearing just like that? No, just died. Gone. Finished. Practically, I would know at least 3-4 cases of old Sankirtan Matajis who are out, consequently living outside, and they are gone, they are dead. You know, some of them seems even quite willingly and quite purposefully. One devotee wrote to me from Mayapur. He is living in the housing areas there in Mayapur. And he wrote to me yesterday, or 2 days ago, he wrote to me, my neighbor was found hanging on in a room. He was dead. Yeah. It's always a kind of news from Mayapur I get. He got shot, he got kidnapped, and he was found hanging on a ceiling in his flat. So this is material world. You never know when it comes. You never know how. Some people get so desperate they kill themselves prematurely, which is a sinful thing to do. So we have no right to do this actually. So we don't know. But one thing we can know, that we have a time to prepare ourselves. And that's the whole thing what it's about. That we're preparing ourselves for that point. So Prahlad Maharaj is giving a very nice summary study. How one can really nicely waste one's life. Therefore his Kaumaram, this Kaumara age, early age should be already used. Actually it's a very good time. So like example with children, because Prabhupada said they are like butter, they can be molded. So that's actually a very good time to make something Krishna conscious. Because they follow, like apes, they imitate, they jump behind. Even they are not fully conscious, still the spiritual experience is there. They are just imitating something good. And Prabhupada always stressed that these children are as soon as possible exposed to Krishna consciousness. And we can see it. Nowadays when I travel, I meet people who live outside in a congregation, have a job and this. And then nowadays you hear it more and more. That you think, oh, this person is so devotional. Why is that? Well, my father was a devotee. My mother was a devotee. You realize, oh, that's the children. Aha. I met at least, in the last 3 weeks, at least 10 of them. And there are people who are already they are married and they are planning how to have family or whatever, But you immediately see the trace of Krishna consciousness was implanted there. Even they are fully aware of Maya, they are studying, they are living in it, they are just doing things, but that's just planted there. Maybe it's like a gardening field which you maybe don't cultivate too much, but it's there. It's there. The seeds are there. Everything is there. Sometimes it's a little bit overgrown by a jungle, But anybody who has children knows that this is it's like our German GBC Dinashana David Asi was answering when they asked her, how come that you boys are so devotional now? They are 25 years old, or who knows what. And she said, oh, don't ask me what they were doing when they were teenagers. There's a period where you really don't have a control. They have to discover their life. They experiment with Maya. But the more was planted there in the beginning, the more they will remember. Oh, and they have to make, unfortunately, very often their experiences, get frustrated, get burned, discover that actually, you never see that they really dive full time into it. They cannot. They are cursed by Krishna consciousness. They always, even they have a beard or they work in a bank or, and suddenly you see, neck beads. More and more you can meet people, in all kinds of positions in a society where you think, this is not a standard kami. And sure enough, while they are working in a bank or driving a bus or who knows what, they will just go, Haribol, because actually they know their identity as devotees. They know that, and they will be naturally attracted to similar minded people, even they try to degrade and they try to be in terrible shapes, they are still not the standard bums, the standard drug addicts. They cannot do that. It's just they always, Krishna. It's so important in the beginning to implant all this. And also, of course, when they have the backup of parents who are devotees. So they always know, okay, whatever nonsense I do, the parent is there and they are chanting Hare Krishna and they are devotees. And so this is just by living. Nowadays you have to be satisfied really with that. We, of course, those generations like us who grew up in glowing temples full of devotees, entirely dedicated to preaching, that's a memory which makes life difficult. Because you expect the same thing coming back like that. You always would like to have again, new Sankirtan parties and, this. And it may come, I think it may come, certainly it may come, but there is something we have to come in terms with, that most of the people will conduct their lives in a frame of grihastha ashrama at best. Family life, hopefully, or just spinning around in a society and still chant Hare Krishna somehow. That doesn't mean that it's good. Prabhupada actually made a distinction. He made a distinction between first class service and second class service. He made these distinctions. He would prefer that temples are on such a standard that it can be considered like a master picture of that, what devotional service should be. I don't want to again get into it and become controversial, but I would boldly say today it's opposite. If you find strictly practicing devotees, you have to go in a congregation. It is like that. And every guru will silently and secretly confirm that, because that's where they are moving around. People who actually are, despite working in such a material field, especially because they work in such a material field, they are very careful, and they are very strict, and they are very enthusiastic to actually appreciate any moment they can spend together in Krishna consciousness. They have to prove themselves every day, because the whole society is telling them, what are you doing? Why four regular principles? Why this chanting? Why? So actually they are challenged all the time, and that makes you strong. Sometimes devotees in the temple, they get just like over-flooded with Krishna consciousness. They don't understand the luxury, they don't understand the thing you have. You can really just have an artik, you can just have a program, you can just see somebody with Sika and Tilak. Wow! You know, this is the blissful to travel through the congregational field, where people are really, appreciating any moment they can actually manifest themselves as a devotee, and because that's what they feel they are. And simultaneously, also the pleasant part is that they have to prove themselves in the terms of keeping the body and soul together. They have to work, and they know what it takes. Even like I was now in Germany, which is considered really celebrating once again its economical stability and the best economy in Europe, and this and that. It's hell. It's just hell. And it's as racistic as it always was. The foreigners are just the manpower. And they get to feel it all the time. There is no unification on that platform. Even East Germans and West Germans, they are not united. No. Because people ask in a bodily consciousness, of course they must become racistic. The only way not to be racistic is to know that I am not this body. Prabhupada was very clear about that. And that's only possible when we practice spiritual life. So naturally, you get to feel this. They judge each other even on the size of a car. If you want to really make your point in Germany, you have to have a big car. They don't even think I'm this body, they think I'm this car. They just really, yes. So the foreigners, they try to copy the whole thing, but they never actually manage. The mafiosis, they have their own little private mafia, and the Russians, they have their thing, and the Turks have their thing, and they get a little bit modified by the German law and order spirit. They are not as chaotic as they would be if they would reside in their own countries. But still, they have their own type of consciousness. We know it from Bhagavatam. When Maharaj Priyavrata, I think, was managing, he was not uniting people, he was dividing them in various locations. He gives them even various dresses and various locations where they, according to their consciousness, that's the main point, could live. So the robbers and thieves, when they insisted to rob and steal from others, they were living in a forest, not in a city. They were not allowed to live in a city. There was rules for everything. I'm now listening to actually new lectures of Srila Prabhupada, which were not published. There are quite many. And I sometimes guess why these lectures, they are good sound quality. It's not like they were damaged or something, but somehow or other somebody decided not to publish them. Because Prabhupada is saying there's things which just glorifying the activities of Maharaj Parikshit, who immediately got in action when he saw Kali manifesting, ready to, in a sporting spirit is even described, ready to actually kill Kali immediately. If he doesn't surrender, he would kill him. So Prabhupada said, yes, Kali is standing on this 4 irregulative principles, meat eating, unrestricted sex life, intoxication and gambling. So Prabhupada said, Vedic culture means you gamble, kill him. You eat meat, kill him. Sounds, if you don't understand that our concept of killing is preaching, sounds quite militaristic, you know. Right? Today, in today's context, where we have religious fanatics everywhere, sounds quite challenging. Now one has to understand. For us, preaching means killing the propensities by chanting Hare Krishna. The real killing, actually it's a quite external thing to do. Yeah, you stop somebody by acting, by killing his body. But if you don't rectify his consciousness, he will be reborn and do the same thing in another body. So killing, what is this killing? You know, it's relatively simple to kill somebody, but to change his consciousness and rectify and reform him, that's a real job. So that's actually what the goal of this movement is, not to kill in a physical sense, but to rectify in a philosophical sense and in the terms of consciousness. One has to be very careful explaining these things today, because otherwise people just, go, wow, another fanatics, ready to kill. No. But when the Vedic society was established, this was not considered abnormal, this was not considered even aggressive. This was considered a part of the protection. This was actually protection. Violence is authorized when it serves the protection. They have it established in the form of police or in the form of military. We are not saying anything new. It's already here. Yeah, there's no non-violent military. There's no non-violent police. Should not at least be. I don't know, but that's needed. When you deal with violent people, you have to become violent to restrict them, of course. So one is to live in terms, or be satisfied in terms, that just by practicing Krishna consciousness, one is benefiting others. Even there is no immediate response. Just the fact that the preaching goes on, the temple goes on, and we have to always remember there was, even in the history of Vaishnavism, there was periods which were very dark, were very, just before Lord Chaitanya appeared, Advaita Acharya could sit only on a bank of Ganges and cry out in despair, but he got to see. There was practically no visible performation of Bhakti Yoga anymore. It was all covered, finished. Not only finished, but even worse, it's perverted. That's the worst. So actually that's where the real conflict and the war goes on, against perversion. So therefore it's so important to be present, to chant and to maintain some standard and use any opportunity one can to transmit it to others. Because generally people are innocent, and they actually, I was now dealing, like example, with 3 weeks with a Russian congregation in Germany. I have to say they don't know really much. They are very, very devotional, but they are very open for new information. And it's extremely responsibility to preach to these people or to talk to them, because they really accept things. And they were already warned by the German devotees, because Germany is far, far, far more infested by deviant preaching as Denmark ever could be. Denmark, nobody cares. It's a good thing. Nobody cares for Denmark. It's just a little islands somewhere in the middle of the ocean. To Denmark. Where is it? You go to India, you go, I'm from Denmark, and they go, where's Denmark? It's just like, even when I said I'm from Sweden, which is considerably bigger country, they go, oh, Switzerland, very good, Switzerland, very good. You go, no, Switzerland, Sweden. And then where is Sweden? It's all the way up there, it's snow. Oh, it's like telling them about other planets or something like this. They have no idea. We are living at the end of the world. This is the end here. It doesn't go much further, and then this is it. So this nationalistic feeling and this feeling have to make the whole Denmark Krishna consciousness will beam with spiritual energy. No, it won't. It's a little pit hole. You can be happy for each single soul who is chanting Hare Krishna. One has to be a little bit modest in one's expectations. You know, for little body there is little shoes. For big body there is a big shoes. So Denmark has a little shoes. It's no problem. Why not? So it can go back home, back to Godet in little shoes. Walk in little shoes. It's grand design. Big time. I mean, we have basically situations like in other yatras, you see in England. Basically whatever is run over by Indians or Russians, that starts to become big in terms of preaching. The rest is just, you have to be happy. You can be happy for one devotee, one bhakta, one Sankirtan devotee in a country. That's really something. You know, yeah. But there is something growing outside. Like example, Shinga Kshetra, it was probably the biggest festival they ever had. Simhachalam, Nishinga Chaturdasi. It's completely overrun by people. And there were many Indians, which I never saw in these regions. There are many Indians. So, yeah, well, you know, that's something new. Nobody ever saw anything like this. So there's something out there, there's something growing, there's something